Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. You know, this past weekend, when I was watching the Jake Paul, Amanda Serrano fight card, and when Amanda Serrano didn't get in the ring, and I saw Felix Trinidad take the microphone and how he was able to quell that crowd. And then yesterday I got back from soccer practice with three of my sons. My oldest son was at basketball practice. And then at night I was looking at some clips on YouTube and I saw the clip where Felix Trinidad couldn't even get through the damn crowd, boy, man. Those people, man, I mean, goddamn, man, they love Felix Trinidad so much. And when watching that, I said, that is amazing, you know. And somebody pointed out to me, they said if Felix Trinidad was to run for a position in government out there in Puerto Rico, they feel Felix Trinidad will win by a landslide despite him not being really qualified for whatever position in government that they feel he would run for. And when they said it, I was like, God damn, that sounds like Manny Pacquiao. Y'all know Manny Pacquiao didn't go to school. He doesn't know how to write. I think he's still struggling with reading. So as far as Manny Pacquiao, that's why he didn't become the president of the Philippines. I was talking to a guy I met while I was fishing. He was from the Philippines. And he laughed at me when I was like, hey, so how do you think Manny Pacquiao's going to do with the elections for president out there in the Philippines? And he said the entire island. He was like, they love Manny Pacquiao, but they're not fools. He was like, he can't even read. He can barely write. They were like, so as far as having him run the country, they're not stupid. The people, they're like, but they love him and will support him in other ways, but they're not going to make the mistake and take him and put him into that position, even though he has the best intentions. And I was like, shit, man, I wonder really, who's loved more? Because we've had a lot of fighters come out from different countries, even here in America. But I'm going to be honest with you, especially me being a guy who was born in 1975, I don't really, I didn't come up during that Muhammad Ali era and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? I'm 48. But I do know who Ali is, of course. But what I'm saying is, like, I wasn't there glued to the TV watching Ali fight like I was with, Floyd Mayweather, De La Hoya. I caught some of the Larry Holmes fights with my pops. I saw some Camacho fights. And, I saw a lot of those fights. But I'm really the Shea Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Arturo Gatti, Zab Judah, that era. But I saw the other fights. But that's the era that really, I came up with. And if you look, my age is pretty close to those guys. So, but the bottom line, when we look at Felix Trinidad and Manny Pacquiao, we got to really understand these guys because when it comes to the Puerto Rican fighter, Felix Trinidad, before 1980, it was universally recognized that Carlos Ortiz was the greatest fighter in Puerto Rican history. But a lot, of course, has happened since then, and two other Puerto Ricans have etched their names in the annals of boxing history, and that was Wilfredo Gomez and Felix Trinidad. Now, both fighters had long, distinguished careers, and both of them set a number of records. Trinidad was the longest reigning welterweight champion in history. A lot of people don't know that, surpassing the mark set by Freddie Cochrane in World War II. Now, for those of you who didn't know, Felix Tito Trinidad made 15 successful defenses during the course a reign that lasted over 6 years. Even though he won the title from ordinary Maurice Blocker, he made a number of defenses against quality competition. 1994 was definitely the most impressive year of his title reign. He successfully defended his title against fellow Puerto Rican Hector Camacho. Then he fought Yuri Boy Campos and Obakar. Combined, they entered the ring with a 130 wins and 2-loss record. After that stellar year, Tito's career went into the doldrums. Promotional problems and the political turmoil between Don King, HBO, and main event stalled Trinidad's career, and he made a number of defenses against nondescript opponents, which included Rodney Moore, Roger Turney, Larry Barnes, Kevin Lushing, Ray Lovato, and Freddie Pendleton. Tired of waiting and having trouble making the welterweight limit, Trinidad signed to fight Terry Norris in the summer of 1997 in what surely would have been a barn burner. Unfortunately, Norris broke away from King and signed with Arum in the hopes of landing a seven-figure payday against Oscar De La Hoya. So instead of fighting Norris that fall, Tito knocked out Aussie Troy Waters in one round in what was supposed to have been a 154-pound title eliminator. Now, shortly thereafter in '98, the political landscape changed. HBO decided to work with King because they were interested in matches involving the King-promoted duo, Evander Holyfield and Felix Trinidad. See, I didn't even know Evander Holyfield was being promoted by Don King at a certain point. Anyway, thus the relations between King, Arum, and HBO softened a bit, and Tito decided to keep his welterweight title in hopes of securing a fight with the Golden Boy. Then in 1999, for the first time since King took Tyson from the network, HBO allowed King to promote a fight on the network when Tito beat Pernell Whitaker. Even though Sweet Pea was 35 and was alleged to have been, now this is something that a lot of people, I still think a lot of people don't realize this. Pernell Whitaker was out here fighting. Same way Mike Tyson said he was fighting and high on weed, Pernell Whitaker was out here fighting and he was high on cocaine. So Sweet Pea had a major cocaine problem. But anyway, Pernell Whitaker came to the fight in shape and was dominated by Trinidad. A lot of people feel if he wasn't on those drugs, he would have beat Trinidad. But it was the first time that Whitaker had been decisively beaten. The win set up a titanic showdown with Oscar De La Hoya in the fall of 1999. Officially, Felix Trinidad unified the welterweight title and won the unanimous decision. Even though De La Hoya ran scared the last 3 rounds of the bout, the majority of observers felt that Oscar had done more than enough to win the fight. This poor performance has a negative impact on Trinidad's greatness, but there are circumstances that help minimize the impact. Now, I remember that fight when he fought De La Hoya, man. De La Hoya was putting those beans on him, but when Trinidad started to catch up and touch him, Oscar De La Hoya didn't like it. And he did run those last rounds, and Trinidad was chasing after him. And this is actually a good example of what we see happening with fighters today that run around the ring like Shakur Stevenson, and then recently the guy Ortiz against Teofimo, where it looks to me like they're outboxing the opponents and winning decisively, but De La Hoya was really outboxing Felix Trinidad, but that running, man, they got De La Hoya for it. So I'm not surprised that when it comes to these guys, if they're really not 2 A-side fighters in there, or if they're both A-side fighters, I could see where like a guy like Shakur Stevenson, where they'll take a fight that looks to be close, and they'll give it to the other A-side fighter. So Shakur Stevenson better be careful of that running around the ring, especially if he's going to get in there and fight somebody like a Devin Haney. Continuing on, Trinidad had been fighting at welterweight since he was 18 years old and had extreme difficulty making the weight and had planned on moving up on several occasions, but was never afforded a title shot, not even after he knocked out Troy Walters in a title eliminator. The only reason Trinidad stayed at welterweight was so that he could get the big fights that would catapult him to superstardom. De La Hoya knew this, and much like the great yet egotistical Sugar Ray Leonard, Oscar has always used his star power and financial clout to induce opponents to fight under circumstances that were to his advantage. That's the A side. That's the Mayweather effect. Mayweather learned from De La Hoya. I'm the A side. I dictate the terms. You do what I say. And now you have an extreme case of the A side trying to dictate terms in Canelo Alvarez, where he's trying to dictate shit to the promoters and the networks now. But when it comes to De La Hoya trying to dictate being the A side, for example, he would never fight guys at their weight and made them move up or down to unnatural weight classes in order to land the Golden Boy payday. This was the case with Genaro Hernandez, Miguel Angel Gonzalez, John Molina, and Bernard Hopkins. The Trinidad fight was a similar situation. Look at Trinidad, he didn't even break a sweat for the first 6 rounds, displaying a trait that is characteristic of a severely dehydrated athlete. Even though I think De La Hoya deserved the decision, I believe justice was rendered because I feel that Tito would have earned the decision if the fight had been at 154. After the De La Hoya debacle, Trinidad moved up and defeated unbeaten 1996 Olympic gold medalist David Reed. Reed was only 14-0 at the time and had looked subpar in prior performances. But still, David Reed, he got busy and he was a guy who picked up a gold medal in the Olympics. But that's where Trinidad, his third win over a gold medalist, it put him in a category where people call him the gold medalist killer because he had clipped 3 gold medalists within a year. Then he went on to fight Winky Wright, Corte, and did amazing things. But the bottom line is, man, overall, Trinidad has to be the greatest Puerto Rican fighter of all time, man. He has the record for having the longest welterweight reign, 19 title fight wins, 1 titles in 3 weight classes, and partially unified titles in 2 of those. Okay, so when it comes to Felix Trinidad, getting in that ring, beating his chest, has a whole Puerto Rico behind him, I really feel it's like, I think when Mike Tyson was getting in the ring, I had a guy, I remember when Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield. I was stationed in Korea. And when Mike Tyson got in there with Evander Holyfield, and the Buster Douglas one was a big one too. But I didn't see people crying for the Buster Douglas one. But I know people cried. But when Mike Tyson lost to Evander Holyfield, there were people crying. And I was like, are you kidding me? But there were people who just loved that dude, man, and what he represented. Being a tough guy from New York or whatever. But with Felix Trinidad, I truly believe whenever Felix Trinidad got in the ring, I really feel like Puerto Ricans probably felt like they were getting in the ring with him. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, Felix Trinidad, very loved by Puerto Rico. Now, Manny Pacquiao, I think to really appreciate the greatness of Manny Pacquiao, you got to look at this man's childhood. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like Francis Ngannou right now. Understanding where Manny Pacquiao and Francis Ngannou came from. Just to evaluate that, and then you become mesmerized to see like what Pacquiao has achieved for himself, but for his country and his people, and what Francis Ngannou has managed to do. But the bottom line is, when you look at what Manny Pacquiao did, clipping Oscar De La Hoya, Cotto, Hatton, getting in a fight with Mayweather, where some people felt that he won, having those 4 fights with Juan Manuel Marquez and beating Morales, beating Barrera. I think Marquez cheated in that 4th fight, but that's just me. The bottom line is, man, when it comes from boxing writers, broadcasters, fans, the international boxing community, everybody looks at Manny Pacquiao and they say he is probably the greatest achiever when it comes to comparing him with other sports disciplines. And I'm going to tell you, I think that anywhere Manny Pacquiao goes, people run to him. I'm not saying he and Muhammad Ali are the same, but I think they had the same effect on people because of what they stood for. But I still think Muhammad Ali, it just doesn't get any bigger than that. But that being said, Manny Pacquiao, this man was acknowledged as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter for a long time, man. And, he comes from a country of like, I don't know what the population is now, 90 million or something. And he was just king of the sport for a long, long time. And you look at him now, I don't know if Manny Pacquiao should continue boxing. But the bottom line is there's a diligence of Filipinos who continue to adore Manny Pacquiao, and they support him at every turn in his personal life, his professional life, as a senator, and then also in boxing. But I know he's done some wonderful thing in sports, his achievements, being brutal, being fierce, and competitive one-sided fights when it comes to his skill, speed, power, and courage. I think even today there's no one who can equal what Manny Pacquiao's done. But I don't know if I want to really see him. One thing to do an exhibition, but then one thing to come out here and try to get in the ring with Terrence Crawford, get in the ring with some of these killers, Gervonta Davis. I hate to see Manny Pacquiao end up like Roy Jones Jr., taking losses he probably would have never lost if he would have been fighting these guys in his prime. But just like Felix Trinidad collected a lot of titles, Manny Pacquiao, 8 different weight divisions, a champion of 8 different weight divisions. That's unheard of. So it's no surprise that Manny Pacquiao, won Boxer of the Year awards, the World Boxer of the Year awards, and from all sanctioning bodies, man, have recognized him for his greatness and his contribution to the sport of boxing. But I'm going to tell you right now, man, Manny Pacquiao and the Filipino people, I don't know when it comes to Felix Trinidad, what he's done with his money to help the country, right? But Puerto Rico and the Philippines, it's not really the same. But they have some serious ass poverty in Puerto Rico too. But the Philippines, and I'm not trying to say one's worse than the other. Poverty is poverty. But the Philippines is different, man. I've been out there too. It's just different, But Manny Pacquiao gave a lot of his money to people. He took care of a lot of people, and he still does to this day. And I truly believe that has something to do with why he wants to return to exhibitions. I know Conor McGregor, and it was a lawsuit, and Pacquiao lost the lawsuit and all that for like $8 million or something. He's got to pay back to Conor McGregor's promotional company, right? But what I'll say is this: when Manny Pacquiao fights, yeah, it's good. He makes money and he helps out people in the country and giving them money, and I mean, there's long lines just waiting for him to walk by for him to give them money, right? But when he fights, the entire nation comes to a halt. The whole country just stops. There's like no life on the street. And they say even then, when Manny Pacquiao was fighting, especially when he was in his prime, man, there was like no crimes committed. No traffic on the street. And even the New People's Army Communist rebels, remember they had that rebellion out there that was killing people? And the Muslim insurgents responded to the military cessation of hostilities and informal troops. None of that shit was taking place. They all agreed to stop their bullshit when Manny Pacquiao was fighting. Every single theater, bar, restaurant, convention center, office auditoriums, and similar venues where Pacquiao fights were being shown were just jam-packed with people. Bus and jeepney drivers would park their vehicles and gather around a roadside TV set in showrooms or other similar establishments just to watch the fight. Even pirated DVDs of the fight would somehow go on sale hours after the fight, were snapped up at roadside vendors' makeshift stores. Absolutely crazy, man. So when it comes to Manny Pacquiao, when it comes to his country, the Philippines, and his overwhelming popularity, man, it's no surprise that they supported him becoming the Senate of the House of Representatives, welcome him to run for presidency, and are excited about him returning to the sport of boxing, doing exhibitions. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But one thing about Manny Pacquiao, kind of like what Felix Trinidad showed this weekend, being that unifying force between that crowd and Amanda Serrano and Jake Paul, and that shit they pulled by her not fighting and not telling nobody till like 10 minutes before she was getting in the ring. Manny Pacquiao is also that unifying force when it comes to his country, especially when it comes to politics, and how sometimes in politics you can see people are sharply divided over issues. Manny Pacquiao and Felix Trinidad, in my opinion, both of those guys are once-in-a-lifetime phenomenons. And so who's loved more? The Puerto Ricans and Trinidad, the Philippines and Pacquiao? Man, they're both loved, and we'll just leave it as that, man. Two amazing guys who did a lot for the sport of boxing and represented their countries, you know what I'm saying? But the one thing I'll say, Manny Pacquiao learned how to speak English. And that helped him with marketability, right? But I think for Felix Trinidad, never really learning English, that made the Puerto Ricans love him even more, because he stayed true to who he was Matter of fact, I know Felix Trinidad may know a little bit. We all, it's like me. I like when it comes to speaking Spanish, right? I'm about 70%. Anywhere I go, I can survive. I understand. I can talk. Sometimes my tenses may be a little screwed up and shit, but I can go anywhere and conversate and survive. And half the time, the person I'm talking to knows everything I'm saying. Just like when their first language is Spanish and not English, and they're talking to me, I know exactly what they're saying. Tenses may be off and shit, but you know what they're saying. And so I think Trinidad may be able to say it, put together a few sentences, but the bottom line is I think that if anything, it didn't do anything but help Felix Trinidad when it comes to how he's adored by the Puerto Ricans, that in a sense, he didn't sell out. You know what I'm saying? He stayed true to who he was. He always talked about his mom making chicken soup and shit. That man stayed true to speaking Spanish, his salsa, Puerto Rico chicken soup, and representing his country. Same thing with Pacquiao. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Them guys, man, earned the recognition and respect from everybody in the boxing community and their countries. And not many of these guys are built the way these 2 dudes are. In the breeze.